Hey y'all, Zelda here. I am coming to you with a week ahead tarot reading. There are 3 different piles that you get to choose from. I'm going to show you a crystal skull, and then you're going to pick the one that resonates most, and there'll be a timestamp in the comments, and you can skip ahead. I know I'm recording this video a little late on the day that I'm going to post it, so it's going to come up in the evening, and you can watch it tonight or tomorrow or whenever you see it during the week. It can certainly be a timeless message, but my intention always with these is to support you with some timely messages for the week ahead. Part of why I'm coming to you a little bit late is because I spent the day setting up this little meditation corner. I'm so excited about it. I'll be able to film there too, and it'll be really nice and peaceful. So thank you all for your patience. I am certainly going to kind of like tune in with everyone. I just want to tell you the 3 different decks that I'm going to be using. The first is the Tarot with Dragons. This is a new deck for me, so this is the first time actually that I'll be reading with it. I'm pretty excited about it. The second is the Poesis Oracle deck. I love that deck. I backed it on Kickstarter. It's black and white, and I'm a really colorful person normally, but I really, really resonate with the imagery. It's simplistic, it's evocative. I love, love, love that deck. And then this one is the Messages from Your Animal Guides Oracle by Stephen Farmer. You can see there's these words and then a little message, and those are the ones that wanted to come up today. So let's show you the different skulls. Pile number 1 is going to be JaKaRo. JaKaRo is a prehnite and epidote skull. Don't know the carver, but has this really beautiful design. Got him from a shop in Utah. And then pile number 2 is going to be Micah. Micah has angelic energy. It's this really cool, unusual shape. Also don't know the carver of this skull. However, I got him from Aravel. Crystalline Goddess was a personal release, very special. Clear quartz. And then this is a layered quartz. You can see the different layers. This is pile number 3. Their name is Galadriel. And Galadriel is carved by Igor de Souza. You can see this kind of unusual, Igor has such an unusual, cool carving style. So, pile number 1, JaKaRo. Pile number 2, Micah. Pile number 3, Galadriel. So, I'm going to spend a moment tuning in, and you can skip ahead. You can either watch this part or you can skip right ahead to the pile that called most to you. I'm going to spritz some of the Platinum Dragon. Love using this one for readings. Now calling upon my guides, ancestors, teams, and lineages, as well as the supports and teams and guides of each individual watching this to support them in receiving the messages that are useful for them, in utilizing their sacred power of discernment to know which messages are meant for them and which ones they can leave behind. Call upon the wisdom of our past, present, and future selves in this and every timeline. I give gratitude and ask that all excess healing energy spill out over into the earth and all beings who are in need of it at this time. So if you are still here, I am guessing you are pile number 1. Pile number 1, you chose JaKaRo. Prehnite is a really magical stone. I love that JaKaRo has these like caverns. They're not just like druzy. They don't have like tons of sparklies, but there's just this like raw quality to parts of him, even though he's not fully raw. You can see there too, and like in his nose. And he has a big energy around healing and nourishment. So let's see kind of how that plays in. Let me just get these straight. Okay. So your animal card is the shark. It says, trust your instincts to discern the truth of the situation. Your Poesis Oracle is embrace. And the Sire of Swords. I love this golden dragon, like golden and silvery. It like makes me think of how like almost like a precious metal dragon, and it's of swords. So this is like air element, fire and air, and has this quality of like mentorship and gentleness, because on this card I see them holding this butterfly as well as this baby dragon on their shoulder. And it just feels so like powerful, like receiving messages from the universe. And especially when I see this card in combination with the shark card and the embrace card, I'm really thinking about how to come back to your center and have trust in who you are and what you know to be able to get through even very challenging situations. The Sire of Swords is the King of Swords in other decks, and when I feel this card, it feels very much like being able to receive wisdom, like that, imagining that butterfly is carrying like the wisdom of divinity, the wisdom of intuition, of your ancestors, of your bodily wisdom, and really feeling like that also is integrating that piece with the wisdom of those who come after you. And that feels like that bringing together, like the embracing of the like crossroads is the term that comes to mind with these crossed hands. It feels like you might be in a situation where there's more than is revealed to you on a cognitive level, and that you might be being asked to really trust yourself. Like the shark, it kind of like, it makes me think of how sharks will like bump into things with their nose to figure them out almost, or their sense of smell being really strong, that it's not always their eyesight, right? A lot of the times when there are shark attacks, it's because they mistake the shape of something, right? Or, because they don't want to eat humans. Humans are not delicious to them. And so that makes me think that you're going to be asked to use maybe a sense that you don't rely on as a default. So if you usually try and puzzle things through by making a pro-cons list, maybe this is like, there's going to be an even split no matter what on your pros and your cons. Or maybe it's that you really like to make things with, maybe it is that you feel like your intuition's a little muddled, and that you're going to be asked to kind of really like hone in on being able to do that. It really feels like the other side, like there may be kind of obscured what you know in a cognitive way about the situation. But I think that it's always good to explore the different balance. Embracing what is your special intuitive ways of knowing. I also think about like, how are you figuring out what your clairs are? So I think that all people have the ability to tap into their psychic instincts. So this would be like clairaudience, so clear hearing, clairsentience, clear feeling, clairvoyance, clear sight. This is something that I think we can hone as we get in touch with our intuition. I think clairsentience is, across the groups of people more common. And so really paying attention to like those gut feelings. Like, do you get asked, let's tap in and see. I'm checking in with JaKaRo to see if JaKaRo has any input about what this could be related to. I don't usually do like predictive. I'm not necessarily a future predictor in that way. I really see these as an opportunities to lend you support. JaKaRo's message is around maybe your work with like healing, like other experts or healing professionals. That maybe you're going to be met with some expert information that feels not true. This isn't an invitation to doubt things that are true. This is more like if there's someone who says something and like every instinct in your body is like, no, I don't think so, then I would really encourage you to trust and embrace that. I also would encourage like giving yourself some space and time if you're making a really big decision to be able to take a step back and really like look at all the pieces and feel into it. This feels like a very much like a sleep on it type of situation. I don't get the sense, even though these are really quick moving cards, that well, it's possible that you could want to make a decision quickly, I guess. Sharks move very quickly. King of Swords can be a fast-paced card. It's fire and air, so it really stokes the fire. But also the embracing feels like taking some space with that. So like if you need to make a decision in the moment, then I would maybe see, and you don't feel clear on that, I would trust that. Like that is a decision. The desire to take a step back and take a moment is a decision. The need to like go up onto the mountaintop to like clear your mind, that is also a decision. Let's check in with JaKaRo and see if they have any other messages for us. I'm smelling like wintergreen. Like gum almost, like wintergreen. So I'm not sure if that means anything for you as a viewer if you chose this pile. But that could be a smell like I am like feeling my mouth as well. Maybe there's some sort of taste or smell that is a strong, like this could also be an input around like paying attention to how your intuition hits as far as smell and taste go. Wintergreen feels very fresh and like going into nature, like I'm seeing like rain and dewdrops on leaves or something, that these could be places to go. Also, maybe if you're washing wintergreen means something specific. Maybe there's a guide that you want to deal with some wintergreen herbal offerings around, or that if that resonates to you. It also is something that like can be a bit of a palate cleanser, and so that also occurs to me. The other message I'm getting very clearly from JaKaRo is don't forget to prioritize your own needs in any of these situations when you're making these decisions. Make sure that you are taking care of you. I'm doing that because with these arms crossed, it really feels like not just spilling out your energy elsewhere. And JaKaRo chose prehnite very intentionally. It can be called the Heal the Healer stone. And it feels like there's this message around, this Sire of Swords is not like a martyr. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we also need to remember that sometimes martyrdom is like a last ditch effort or like a feeling like there's no other options. And I would really encourage that, if this person were to martyr, that baby dragon would be left by themselves. And if there's another option, it's always better to take care of oneself. This feels like, secure your own mask and then help someone else. That actually there is enough time to do both, and don't let yourself like get into a situation where you feel trapped when actually you have more options than that. So prioritizing yourself in any decisions that you have, not instead of others, but in addition to others. Yeah, trust, embrace, I think that is your message for you, Group 1. Thank you so much for being here. I really look forward to seeing you next week, or if I'm able to, doing a dragon channel or a channeled message in between. I'm also going to start doing some deck reviews, so if you want to be alerted, you can always subscribe. I also have new aura mists. That's what I was busy doing this week. So if you would like to check those out, you can check out my website. Thank you again. If you are still here, maybe you're in Group 2. Group 2, your being is Micah. Micah fits so nicely in my hand. I actually love holding him upside down and putting my fingers in his eyes. Some skulls, I really like to do that. It helps me kind of almost see through their eyes. Micah has a very calming, it's really hard to see. In fact, basically impossible to see on here. You can kind of see it. There's a circle, almost like a halo on his head of this inclusion, almost like a phantom. And it is really, really magical. I find his presence so soothing, so much so that I slept with him clutched in my hand for a really long time. So that's the kind of energy also that he brings to our reading today. Not surprising that these are the cards that he chose. So, okay. So Condor is your animal message. It says, you are too enmeshed in this situation, so step back and see the bigger picture before making any decisions or taking action. Your Poesis Oracle card is Simplify, and your tarot card is the Queen of Pentacles. In all of these, this feels like a very clear invitation to take a bird's eye view. The words that I'm hearing so clearly from Micah are sleep on it. And it's so funny because I felt so guided to tell you, which I don't normally tell you exactly how I engage with them, but I felt called to tell you that I used to sleep with him in my palm. And I used to struggle with really intense insomnia. I do once in a while, but it's much different than it was even just a year ago. And so this feels like this quality of there might be something keeping you up at night, or there might be something that you're feeling like you have to do with a huge sense of urgency. And the message that I really get is that it's going to be very difficult for you to make this decision without taking a step back. It's interesting because the last cards I read was kind of similar to this, but it felt a little bit more like go with your gut. This one feels a little bit more like you definitely have the tools and resources available to you to make this decision, but that I get the sense that a little bit of a time break would be helpful, right? The step back, see the bigger picture. I almost get the sense that not asking someone else's opinion, but consulting with a trusted guide. I am hearing from Micah, ask your angels for support or ask your guides, maybe even leaving an offering at your altar if you have one, or if you write letters, or if you like candles or anything like that, to actually do that practice to appeal to something larger than yourself, or even asking, your living elders for some advice could be a little bit supportive. The Queen of Pentacles feels like she's kind of watching out for her eggs. The Queen of Pentacles is water and earth. And I always when I see this card, it generally is tending to resources. It makes me think of rubbing a mud mask on my face and my body. And it's this very earthy embodied ritual. It feels like part of the body. It feels like it also has this quality of being able to almost pull toxins out, and that there's this extractive, but not in a labor extraction, it's just pulling out, right? And freeing in that way. But that it's sometimes a little bit of a sludgy process. When this person, like when I see this mama like hunched over, this parent hunched over the nest, or look, that's the physical impression of what I'm seeing. I get the sense that she is like watching out for them. And so I wonder, right? She may be, when I see this with this, right? That if we just are so fixated on like counting our eggs, right? Like, all my babies are there, all my babies are there, all my babies are there, right? Counting them, we might actually get like snuck up on by a predator or by a surprise, or we might get hungry and like not have the resources. And so I really see this quality of like, how do you take flight and survey the situation? What allows you to get that stepped back kind of point of view? Micah's saying sleep on it. If you're making a decision, sleep on it. Avoiding a sense of urgency, and also avoiding any excess in the decision, right? Seeing the bigger picture. I also see this simplify, that each piece is vitally necessary and important. Let's see if there's any other messages. I also felt this like expansion with a sense of breath, and it feels like coming back to your breath as like a place to, meditate and like clear your space and your mind, like practices that help you like clear out clutter, maybe even like actively decluttering, right? We can't like count our nest if we have like a bunch of other things piled up and there's not enough room, right? It's much easier to take stock and see what we have when we actually like clear out the excess. And so this actually feels like, if you are considering like cleansing your space, or making a decision on something, maybe actually like clearing out excess, or getting rid of things that you don't need, could be really helpful. It can help us to become less enmeshed, to have less stuff to get like meshed or snagged on. There feels like there's something about resources. Not making any big purchases, perhaps, that feel like shoulds. The message I'm getting repeatedly is like, give yourself, if there's a rush or a sense of urgency, find a way to come back to your sense of self and slowness and nurturing, to simplify the intensity around it, and to then take a step forward. It's okay to wait and let someone know in the morning, that kind of thing. Yeah. I'm feeling like the softness of Micah's wings, this like almost velvety quality to the whiteness, and um, I'm wondering about like the ways that not only clearing your mind, but also engaging with like comforting senses could be really supportive for you right now. That's like a question that I have, is like, what senses help you to return to your body and to return to your sense of what pace is appropriate for you at this time. Okay, group 2. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you next week. I may post another week ahead, or not week ahead, but like a Dragon channel or another channel message or even a deck review. I'm going to start doing some of those. So if you want to see that, you can always subscribe and you'll get notified. You also, I just wanted to let you know that I launched some new sprays. That's part of why I had a hard time getting this up earlier in the day. So if you want to check out any aura mists, support you, they are available on my website, and you can find all that in the description box. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next week. Okay, if you are still here, I'm guessing that you are in group 3. Excuse me. Excuse me, I just paused it because I realized that I had to sit for a second. I haven't, I was going to use a different skull and I kept repeating that skull's name. I have sometimes like very scatterbrain. This skull's name is actually Mustafa. It's not Galadriel. That is a different Igor skull that wanted to be in the reading. I kept like repeatedly saying it, but this is Mustafa. And so Mustafa is an Igor carving. Mustafa is a Merking from Undersea Royalty, which felt really important and it makes sense. We'll tap in with him in a second. I'm glad that I took a second because I was like, wait a second. And I made that right before. I just kind of like grabbed and swapped it out right before. And so I'm curious what his messages are for you today. Okay, group 3, humpback whale. Music is essential to your healing and well-being, whether singing, playing an instrument, or listening. And Mustafa does love whales. Practice. And the Empress. So I'm getting this sense of being in a learning process and so what just happened to me is that I realized that I said the wrong name at the beginning of this video. And then I was like, wait, no, that's not right. And so I paused it, right? And took a second. It was like, what happened? And sometimes when we are in a learning process or when we have an opportunity to learn, we'll do something that feels like an error. And this feels really connected to kind of like this card is, it just reminds me of this important part of like being present with where you are in the moment and knowing that making mistakes is okay and correcting yourself is always, it's better to correct yourself than to be right. And this is something that takes a lot of learning. I think sometimes we all struggle with this, no matter how kind of expert or new or good at being humble we are, that it can be challenging to say, oops, I think I was incorrect. Having said that, it is so unrealistic for us to be correct all the time, even for those of us who love to be right. So I'm getting the sense that like there may be a bit of a learning curve for you. Or if that doesn't feel like it lands for you, it could just be my, integration of my experience, and that's also totally fine. Part of the reason that I see this is that when I see this with humpback whale, when I see this with music, I'm thinking about like recovering from an error and seeing all challenges and mistakes as opportunities for growth. How you orient to your growing edges is a really big quality of how you improve yourself in your life. We don't learn when we're kind of in our comfort zone as easily. We want to be in this kind of, in educational terms, there's this like zone of proximal development where you actually, it's like not just the comfort zone, but it's before you exit your threshold. And it's interesting because with the Empress, I really feel Lindsay Mack calls the Empress, like the tagline that comes up sometimes in their podcast or their lessons is receiving as birthright, is this quality of like being present with abundance, feeling like connected to the fact that there is enough for everyone, that you deserve to receive good things. This can be a big challenge if you are struggling with self-worth, if you have experienced trauma and don't feel good enough. And it also can feel very unsafe to make mistakes if you have experienced a lot of trauma in your life. Feeling right, especially with like emotional abuse or cognitive like manipulation, if that's an experience you've had relationally in your past, it can feel so unsafe to be incorrect. And so it really feels important to acknowledge that like you resting, and I'm even seeing like resting in like almost like moist earth, like freshly rained upon soil, and just like letting your body like, so finding a space where you can have that feeling. The other image I'm really seeing, and this makes sense that Mustafa would bring this message, is Mustafa talks a lot about these layers of personal development, these like, a long time he shared a message with the collective about the self being built almost like a city, where there are like layers and layers built, like each layer built on top of the next, and that this is like, as us, part of us, goes, we grow and we outgrow part of ourselves, that a new, layer is building on top and needed that experience to be able to come into fruition. And so it feels like being able to maybe sit in a bathtub and really like rest in the water and practice like floating feels like it could be really helpful. I think of whales and how kind of they effortlessly can dive down into the depths and then come back up for air. And so I think of this titration process. The Empress makes me also feel that like receiving good things can feel really dangerous if you've experienced challenges, and that you need to practice giving yourself, you need to titrate and add it in a way that it can actually absorb into your system with this sweetness. And music and listening to that and letting our body like yield and feel into that is also really helpful. I'm also getting the sense Mustafa is saying that the reason that he jumped in at the last minute is that with this kind of serious gateway, that some people may be remembering lives under the water, potentially mer lives. So if you are experiencing that, music, being in the bathtub, swimming may be a way to spark that. Even like listening to whale noises might be something that you want to try. It can be, I got like shivers actually. So if you want to, after this, go and put some whale music on, that might be a really fun process to actually sink in to some of this memory, or even some of this emotional processing. The way that we hear these underwater noises, the way that these kind of like infiltrate our being, can actually like jolt and sift around some of these different things. Not being afraid of being uncomfortable, and not being afraid of feeling your feelings. So one of the great things about music is that it can be profoundly cathartic. We can listen to songs that evoke different emotions in us. And I really feel that like being able to experience like positive emotions sometimes involves being able to move through negative ones. With a practice, it kind of feels like sometimes we have to build up like endurance to be able to actually enjoy a practice. I'm in that process right now of like starting to build up strength again after a long time of sitting at a desk and working with people and wanting to kind of feel more in my body during the summer. And feels like this quality of like, start giving yourself the grace to build up stamina around emotional processing. Listen to music that puts you a little bit up out of your comfort zone. That could be something something that is helpful, or doing activities, or even acknowledging some fears and how to actually practice feeling that way in a way that feels safe. That could be like having a challenging conversation with your therapist or your coach or your best friend or something. Not to say those are the same thing, but sometimes we have access to one and not the other. Or journaling about it before we actually have to have that difficult conversation. That is practicing. And that is going to make us more effective for the most part, I guess. Like, I can obviously think of situations in which that's not true, but this feels like the message is that giving yourself space to practice is going to build up those layers and allow you to receive the things. If you are putting a lot of effort, this feels like Mustafa's message too. Like, if you're putting a lot of effort into like manifesting things that are good for you, make sure that you are practicing receiving those things, that you feel good enough to actually receive those, and that you have space for those in your life. Otherwise, they could arrive and knock at your door, and you might turn them away because you're like, there's no way that's possible, or you don't even look up to see them. I think that happens a lot. This feels like the blocking our blessings type of quality. Okay, so that is Mustafa's message for you. Thank you so much. My apologies for being, even as I know everyone so intimately, sometimes my brain just is scattered. And so I also hope that that supports you in feeling free to make mistakes. Thank you so much, Group 3. I really appreciate you being here. I love sharing space with you. I hope to see you next week for the week ahead tarot reading. And I also hope to, if you would like to subscribe, you'll get notified. I sometimes do a dragon channel video midweek, and I'm also going to start doing deck reviews since I have a lot of different decks and I want to share which ones I extra love. I also am uploading this late because I have been finishing my new aura mists. There's Jasmine Unicorn and Golden Sphinx. You can find those available with homemade flower essences and everything at my website. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and I am sending you lots of love. Bye.